Hello, my name is Taylor Berrickman, and this is my Family Life Education PowerPoint for CDF 327S at Eastern Kentucky University. I did mine over kindergarten readiness. For this presentation, I will be free to talk after the presentation for personal questions, and I plan on providing light refreshments, including some cookies that the children from my room made. I think that that's very important because I want to show how I'm including my children in what I do and how they are helping me in what I do. I'll have decorations that they made using their handprints or paint, and everything that would be around or as centerpieces in the table is going to be something that they helped me do. I will have handouts that parents can get on the way in if they want to, but they're not required to. Each of these I feel like make the room more welcoming and less intimidating or threatening, and I would not want to be a threat or intimidating to someone who I'm going to have to work with for the next school year. I think this topic is super important because it's something that everyone goes through at one point in their life. If you choose to have kids, you're going to go through it. You went through it yourself, and or you might have grandkids that would go through it. So at any point in time, you're going to run into this situation as long as kids are involved in your life. So that is why I chose the kindergarten readiness topic. I do believe that like the family that I did my lesson plans with, they have a student that's going into kindergarten, and I think it's very important for me to include types of information that might help them during my home visit, which I was able to do, and I'm able to show them this PowerPoint, and they're able to keep it and kind of ask me questions if they need to, which is awesome because I'm already being a community source, so that makes me feel awesome. These are beneficial for any of my friends that are having kids, which is crazy to think about, or have already had children because they're going to be looking for this information soon, sooner than myself. So making this is not only something that I had to do for class, but also something that's going to be beneficial for my friends and family. It's important for parents because if they know this information early on in their child's life, they can start preparing the child for kindergarten and working on things they need to know beforehand, before they get there, their address, their phone number, etc. Now I have a little icebreaker for you. Who can name 3 things our children need to know when they go to kindergarten? So I would give like 2 minutes for people to write that down, and I would provide paper and pens or pencils. And then I'd let them greet others at their table and tell them one thing that you're wanting to know more about, and or one thing that like you're most interested in, because I feel like that will help kind of break the bond between like who's sitting at whose table. It wouldn't be like assigned seating, but I also feel like that will kind of take a little bit of weight off the shoulders. The first resource that I'm going to be talking about is from the governor's office. It is a website that I found, and it will be listed in the resources. So this goes over what does school readiness look like in children and families in the community. Here's a list for in children. They will want to have exposure to print, motivation, and engagement with learning tasks. Possess effective social, emotional, and interpersonal skills, because that's important because we're becoming independent in kindergarten. Socialization to a group norms such as will be expected in the school and classroom. So there's not going to be someone sitting with them 24/7, so that's important to remember. You'll want them to have developed the ability to communicate effectively. Like I said, we're becoming more independent, and we're promoting self-independence, so being able to communicate effectively in the school environment, especially because they're probably going from a smaller center where the ratios are smaller to maybe a classroom with like 25 to 30 kindergartners with an aide and a teacher. So that is definitely going to be a transition as well, because they're going to have just a little bit less one-on-one time, or a little bit less of a person kind of like being closer to their activities and guiding them, and it's going to be more self-directed and independent. It's also going to require any physical or health barriers that are like already addressed, including screening and correction for vision, hearing, and other health-related issues. So that is something that you have to bring to the school before the child can start school. They will want to have access to information on how to advocate for their child's learning and development. This is super important just because you are your child's biggest advocate. I'm a child's huge advocate, but it starts in the home. And if you have any questions about advocating for your child, I want to be able to help you. So those are super important things just to kind of keep in mind before you're going into the kindergarten area moving forward. Also, to look for in professionals in schools, we want to assure effective transitions to all key points, including from home to school or childcare to school or even preschool to kindergarten. We want to provide developmentally appropriate programs, just meaning that we're teaching on a level that your child's understanding. I'm not trying to teach a kindergartner how to divide because they're not there yet. So I really want to make sure that I'm providing those services. If there's ever a point in time where you feel like I'm not, you are more than willing, you're able to contact me and let me know. We can talk about things, and I can say, here's why I think this is appropriate, and you can say, okay, well, this is why I think it's not appropriate. A lot of times you'll hear developmentally appropriate programs used as DAP instead of the full type out, so that'll be something that might be handy for you to know as well. Emphasis on effective parent and family involvement is also super important, just because, like I said, you are your child's biggest advocate, so it all starts with you. Here I would have an inclusion thing where I could have the parents write on their paper 2 things that their family need to focus on this year. This would be beneficial because then they're able to share with their team. Now we're talking about in communities, provide access to high quality, affordable, and early care and education programs. Affordable is my biggest focus when I'm developing anything in class and or anything for like families like we did this semester. Affordable is super, super, super important. And I think it's crazy that I'm so adamant on that because I live in one of the wealthiest counties in the state, but I still see families that struggle to get their child where they need to be, or to get their child in a good center that's providing them with knowledge and education for the future because it's not affordable. So that is something that I would want to be able to provide and point families in the right direction to in their communities. Communities are to ensure a safe and healthy environment for families, provide opportunities for lifelong learning for parents, which oftentimes are located at like the local library, collaboration and alliance of agencies to better prepare children for school, readiness. Agencies that would be involved could be like Head Start, universities and colleges, early childhood council, school districts, preschool teachers, kindergarten teachers, and family resource centers. Like I said, I had already mentioned the public library. So here I would have the families write down on their paper what places are important to the family and where they might go most often, or where they think they could go for help in a specific area that they might need help in. I specifically chose to use the Jefferson County Public Schools booklet, even though I'm located in Oldham County, just due to the fact that I work in Jefferson County and I was able to get my hands on some super great material. So I decided to do Jefferson County. Jefferson County covers personal care and safety, social skills, reading and oral language, math, and writing. So personal care and safety, we want them to be toilet trained before they go to kindergarten, fasten and unfasten own clothing without assistance, zippers, shoes, and jackets, cover mouth or nose when sneezing or coughing, which we are going to try to teach super early on because we want to prevent illnesses, and we want to prevent just spreading the germs. In my classroom, they know that if they accidentally sneeze, they just say, "Sorry, I just spread germs," and they'll kind of spread out, which is really funny, but it's also a really positive reinforcement and a way to teach them to cover their mouth when they cough or sneeze. Their home address and phone number is extremely important because you want them to know what those are in case of an emergency. They want, this is more for like safety, how to contact available safe adults in case of emergency. So where would you go? What's the game plan? What's your fire route at home, at school, etc. And we want them to know their full name and where the parents or guardians work. That's important just because if there is a situation and we need to get a hold of your parent or guardian, or for say there's a situation in my classroom and something happens to me and I'm not able to provide all that information for a first responder, they're able to ask the child, "Hey, where does your mom work?" Or, "Hey, who can we call?" And if they say University of Kentucky Hospital, okay, at least you have a direction to go in. So those are super important. The social skills, concepts of sharing, which is an ongoing learning process and always will be. So just work on that. A lot of positive reinforcement. I am a strong believer in positive reinforcement. So just giving them positive encouragement or positive affirmations, that really helps sharing. Or just saying, hey, you can have a turn. Just ask, hey, Susie, when you're done with that toy, will you come get me because I'd like to play with it? That's what we do in my classroom right now, and it works excellent. Follow rules and directions given by an adult. If they're coming from a center, oftentimes they'll know that, but if they're coming from home, it might be a little bit harder to kind of listen to a strange adult that they've never met before, so that's important to expose them to those things. Use polite language when talking with adults and peers, and keep track of personal belongings. We all lose stuff, but it is something that is important, especially when you're having a backpack and a jacket going into the kindergarten classroom. For reading and oral language, we want them to be able to speak in 5 to 6 word sentences, retell familiar stories, discuss who, what, when, where, and why, sing songs, read his or her own name, recognize letters of the alphabet, and know that books are read from front to back and that we read them from left to right, top to bottom. Those are important. Those are also going to help many other skills. So reading and oral language is something that's like a super strong base that you can start working on super early. I mean, you start singing songs half the time before the baby's born, so that should be something that comes pretty naturally. Math and writing. We want them to be able to recognize and name 8 basic colors, recognize and name 4 basic shapes, square, circle, rectangle, shapes as similar, you can do like 4-sided shapes, super simple shapes. You don't have to get into like octagon and pentagon and those types of things, but hey, if they come in knowing that, that is awesome. We want them to rote count from 1 to 10. Rote counting is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in order. We want them to count groups of up to 5 items. We want them to know how to hold a pencil, crayon, pen, or marker. Play-Doh is an excellent source of strengthening hand muscles, and you can make homemade Play-Doh. So, super fun to do, and I highly recommend it. We want them to be able to write his or her first name and know how to use scissors, paste, and glue. Here are the resources that I use. I use the kidsnow.kentucky, and so that was the government page, and then the Jefferson County Public Schools School Readiness Activities to Prepare Students and Families for Kindergarten is a booklet that you can get through Jefferson County Public Schools, or I'm sure that you can find forms of it on their website, so I gave that out. And lastly, this is what I would include and how I would include parents in my presentation. I would definitely have the school district's readiness booklet for them, so like the Jefferson County one that I have here. I would make sure that I had enough for every family plus some, so that families who are separated could both pick up a sheet. I feel like that's important to remember. I would have something called developmental milestones, and it's a spinning wheel, so you have a solid piece of paper on the back and a like a 1 pie piece taken away piece of paper on the top, and you're able to spin that around and see different developmental milestones for your child. And that could be like going from 3 all the way up till 6, maybe. So that way you could kind of get a before and during kindergarten phase. I could give a book or a paper that you could write questions in and leave your email so that I could get back with you on topics that maybe I didn't cover. That would be super important, and it would also be able to help like me when I produce the same presentation for next year, to hold myself accountable for those questions or topics that maybe I didn't cover that maybe some people really needed to know or really wanted to know and they didn't get their answers there. So thank you for watching my presentation. I hope you have a great day.